we don't want to waste too much time. So good afternoon once again, and welcome to the first session of our WICYS speaker series. This is something that will be running through this month of October. I think we're all aware that the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So this is something that we're doing to also participate. So over the next few weeks, we'll be having industry professionals come in and speak to us on topics that can help us in our work, and can also help us in improving as professionals as well. So today we have with us Murielle. Okay, she's a cybersecurity professional and a CISO. And I think for some of the ladies who are members of WICYS, you may have had the opportunity of engaging her as your mentor during our mentorship program. So Murielle is going to give us a presentation on some habits or some tips that we can employ as industry professionals to ensure that we are safe online and to ensure that we are doing our work right. Okay, so without wasting any much time, I'd like Murielle to take up from here. You can just give us a brief profile and then you can just kick off with your presentation.
All right, thank you so much, Julia. Thank you, Olainka, for organizing this too. I want to say how I enjoyed being able to interact with the mentees from West Africa, and it's a pleasure to continue and share across continents. So thank you very much. This presentation is about the good practice and also the tools that can allow you to work safely. I am sure you know some of them, and if you have complementary tips, it's great that you can raise your hand and share them. I tried to put the advice in a logical order, but actually it comes, there are many things from so different, let's say, topic, so that actually there is no special order. First of all, I think what's very important is to go back to basics. Basics is, or actually taking time to read the manuals. And sometimes in software or application manuals, you get hints about the proper way to use the software safely. As well, we tend not to ask enough the help of supports, whether it's for applications or any tool. We don't dare enough asking support by mail or chat or calls. But this is a very good way to learn. Actually, they're paid for us to use properly the tools, so we should do it more. Of course, it's important to set the right configurations. So actually to dig into the parameters and to personalize the logins. So it takes time, but it's very useful to really see what is at hand, what is already there for cybersecurity. So people have developed these little add-on or options that you can use. So it's upsetting if we don't use them, actually. So it's a matter of playing, I will say, in the interfaces, whether it's on a laptop or a mobile or a tablet. We need to learn to click and see what the effect is, to understand what we get in terms of security when using these parameters, additional parameters, whether it's on our cloud spaces, our browsers. This we can regularly check. with regards to your ID and all administrative documents, as a person, but also for your companies, it's good to have them secured in and encrypted, basically. So data management here is key. With regards to also, of course, payment online, if you put a kind of buffer between your account and the potential hacks, for example, if you use PayPal or a virtual card, even now banks offer like instant virtual cards. This card number will be used just once. So there is no use actually for a hacker to use it because it will not work for any further payments. Having a physical protection, protecting from NFC connection your credit card is also useful. So this is more for a personal point of view, but I wanted to add it. In your professional life, you also need to consider the security of your physical environment at home and in your transports, and even when traveling. It's important to make sure you're surrounded by safe people, people who share your life, that you have well set up the boundaries between, your professional space at home because of remote working, so that any paper, any code is not on your desk. Okay, we'll talk about password managers later on. So you have, of course, even at home to use the clean desk policy, and to make sure there is, of course, locks, to make sure that within your home there's a safe place where you work with your cyber computer, your computer for your cyber job. I would recommend, perhaps it's not an opinion everyone has, but I would recommend to avoid using SSO across apps. I prefer, that's my technique, to actually use a different complex password for each app. Of course, it's on your mobile where you have your password manager. I think everyone knows what a password manager is. It's a secure repository where you register all your passwords instead of having a booklet in written that can be, of course, read by anyone who finds it. So it will be openable upon, for example, touching finger touch, and then you can sort your passwords of different categories. So of course your mobile needs an access code to protect other applications inside, including the password manager one. And I start to think it's useful to have mobile antivirus and the VPN for mobiles. Yes, it's a kind of protection, I think, to get multiple email accounts instead of having only one, which means that if it's hacked, you get all your information hacked at once. I have heard recently that it's not enough to believe that the mail company will be securing your account naturally. Actually, you need to go into some parameters. You need to make the anti-spoofing option active. It's called SPF. And there are also options like DKIM and DMARC to activate. I like quite well the Proton Mail, which is a Swiss provider for mails, but it's a paying one. When you work in a company that wants you to work, safely, they will provide the BitLocker software so that actually your hard drive is encrypted. Basically, this is a security because if you get your laptop stolen on the way back home, the hard drive will be encrypted. So normally it would take a lot of time to get the data. And also what they do is that they tell you not to store sensitive data on this drive anyway. They ask you to work on the sensitive data in a special place that is not stored on your laptop. That's a good practice. And of course, you have a laptop password manager. There are many of them. You all, I think, now all use multi-factor authentication. That is to say, as soon as it's available, you accept to use a two-step process to log in. Okay, it's longer, it's lengthy, but it's a protection for you. What should also come into habit of everybody, I think, is encrypting the attachments. There are easy ways to do that. So actually, a very common way is 7-zip, or an archive where you add a password. If the document is a PDF, then you can have the version of PDF from Adobe where you can enter a complex password. And as well, it's very practical, because in this case, you can say, I don't want, for example, this document to be printable. So there are little practicalities like this that I appreciate. And then you have what we call the containers. So it's much bigger. You can fill it with many documents from different types, whether it's video or any type. And then it's very safe. I think it's maximum. I think there are two levels of encryption, but the paying version of ZED, ZED exclamation mark, ZED exclamation mark, you can get it for free, but actually there is also a paying version which encrypts even more. Alors, of course, when you have a doubt on a website, link, there are some website safety check pages. So instead of running into clicking, you first test it on this website safety page, like Norton has one, but there are many. And then you are sure it's not registered as a dangerous website. Of course, you all know that if there is no padlock logo, it's not secure socket layer, you don't pay online. And you never pay in a rush, like if somebody tells you you have to do this before urgently, otherwise something bad will happen, because this is actually it's actually someone manipulating you. So I think you already use on your browser an ad blocker, because ads can also bring some malwares. Perhaps you're not as acquainted to VPNs. VPNs are virtual private network. It's very useful, for example, to be safe on the internet, and also to have a more private surf. I like Proton VPN, and sometimes it allows you to access some content that is not available in your country. Recently, I could access some Australian information, and it was very useful. And I think you will all use antiviruses and perhaps an anti-malware. I find anti-malware quite expensive, but maybe you will give me a good a name of a free anti-malware. I have observed in Europe that at some point it was not sure that our internet box was connected with the WPA2 protocol, which is safer than the normal WPA. So in your country, if you can call your internet provider and make sure they offer you the WPA2 protocol, this would be nice. Actually, I think it has come into place by default now in France, but it took so long. I think it has been unsafe for many years. Regularly, you can check the open session on your mobile app, because, for example, in my case, I observed that there were like 6 sessions, even not in my country, under my LinkedIn. I was pretty surprised, so I cut them all, and I was very surprised how it could happen. This is an option to interesting option from some apps to know where are open sessions. You can slow me down, raise your hand if I speak too fast. One advice could be also to limit radiations. I explain what it means. It's like trying to shut down the Wi-Fi as much as possible, because we never know if there are some Wi-Fi sniffers around. So it's better to have a LAN connection. Also with your mobiles, you can avoid having always the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi open. So it's only when you have a need that you open these functionalities, I would say. And as well, oh, there's someone saying something. This guy.
Okay, please.
If you have questions. You know, if something happens, if something bad happens, whether on a private network or on your company network, basically what happens is that there will be some data extracted, and the network becomes overloaded. So it's also important to notice this. So my strategy with data management is actually to try and rationalize, to shrink down data to the essentials. But so to be conscious of what data I need, but actually to back it up at multiple places, because this is one of the cybersecurity criteria, it's availability. So I think, well, in my case, I think, of course, confidentiality is important, but availability is important for me. So I try to dispatch. Yes, good advice that was given to me was like to really check what is starting up automatically. And some apps, they grant themselves the capability to start automatically at, for example, at laptop opening and mobile opening. And actually, I didn't really want that to happen. And so I think regularly checking what is by default opening, and also what authorization they have. Do they have access to microphone, especially microphone or camera? Is it legitimate actually that these apps ask for these authorizations? It's sometimes it's legitimate. And then when you prevent them from accessing a camera and phone, you soon realize that you did something bad, because then the functionality it's not working properly. But actually, many apps request authorization that are not useful for their functions. So, for example, I also have some conference rooms. So I have the possibility to accept anybody if they have the link. So it can be useful but sometimes I prefer to actually protect the room and be able to know who's getting in. And as well, perhaps you've also realized this, there are things like YouTube or Spotify, things that are, it's mostly for fun, actually. Actually, you have no privacy really, unless you click something to say, no, actually, I don't want my playlist to be public. So it's a surprise when you find out that actually what you were viewing or the playlist you were building up on YouTube are actually public, unless you go and dig into the parameters and check and say, no, that's my life. You see. So these were my mostly for your work life, but also a bit for your personal life. And I'm open to learn from you. For example, if you have a complementary advice, and if you have questions, of course. Don't hesitate to speak. I had also two subjects I could talk about. It's the positions, the different types of jobs in cybersecurity, and also the cybersecurity landscape, and also, I mean, the landscape, that is to say, the types of companies, the types of, the categories of companies, whether service, whether operational security, I mean, governance, operational cybersecurity, and software. So I can talk about the cyber landscape. Are you interested in that? Because it's pretty different. I think it can be a bit different from where I live and where you live. The ecosystem can be a bit different, but it's interesting to see how cybersecurity is organized in every country, I think.
Hi, Murielle.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead. It seems people are interested.
All right. So I will share with you a few links. In fact, I will share my computer. So actually, first of all, I want to tell you there are websites that give you a lot of information. So because we are international, okay? So I'm sure you know already the NIST. nist.gov. Maybe I type it in the chat. Because here you learn all the procedures, the good, I would say the good cyber governance, even for industry. So if you want to be a consultant, you get inspiration from this. If you want to be very good at understanding how attackers get into systems, you need to master Mitre attack. So recently, I really liked their tactics and techniques for ICS, industrial systems. So actually, this website is pretty clear and simple. Mitre attack, you go around this website. I mean, it's very well structured and can be highly technical, of course, but you can also read it at a not so thorough level and already grasp things from that, because not everybody is going to be a white hat, but everybody needs to know the path to attacks. So I think it's a great website. As well, with regards to cyber governance, you will like CISA.gov. And CIS. So you can get this into your favorites and then you give yourself time to read it. So I put this a little smaller to see. Then there is a European website, which can be interesting, but it's more like policy things, policy making. We never know. Some of you can be in touch with some state and trying to organize cybersecurity from the state level. We never know. So this is interesting. What else? We have an agency called ANSSI, and they produce very interesting material. So for example, these publications from ANSSI are in English. Those which were translated to English are mostly around the theme, the topic of cyber crisis. How do we react to a cyber crisis? How do we communicate when there is crisis and our communications tools are down? Our communication, our normal communications tools are down and we need to work in a degraded environment. So I like very much ANSSI because I will show you so many publications they've done. For example, the one with the jobs, the categories, is a publication from ANSSI, job types. And also they have developed a risk analysis methodology, which is called risk manager, EBIOS risk manager. So as soon I will share it with you. EBIOS, this is the club for it. The club could be international. We have already some, of course, a lot of participants in France, but if you're interested, I can introduce you. And we share this methodology. So risk manager abuse, risk manager. Here it is in English. And I love this methodology because it's very powerful. It actually, it's a methodology that derives from military methodology of risk management. They have adapted it to cybersecurity, and it's very logical, and it helps people work around the systems security. And actually, it's very useful to make sense of what is to protect, because we don't want to, you know, when you work only through compliance requires a lot of changes. But when you are in a hurry, you can't afford to have time to have all the money to be compliant on every referential. So sometimes it can save you time actually to do a risk analysis and to focus on the real threats right now. So this is why we tend to, it's complementary. It's very good to do compliance. For example, if you want to be ISO 27000, is 27000, it's great. And I would say that the risk management approach is complementary. Then we have Alliance pour la confiance numérique. So what I like with this is that they shape the market vision. I like it because it helped me to have my own vision of what is on the market. Before I had read their reports, their publications, I was a bit confused, although not so much confused, because when you go to events, cybersecurity events, you kind of draw your map in your head. But these publications here, I found very, very useful. So basically, I tell you the trick that helped me from their publication. They have said, actually, there is a market called the digital trust. And inside there is the cybersecurity, and there is digital trust. For example, everything that is enabling security, for example, upon identification, bio-identification, all these things, you know, including the physical security digital tools. So it made it more clearer to me that, okay, cybersecurity was part of something bigger. And I really like that. And they give you also the billions. They kind of show the market size for each market segment. So it helped me find out what was actually really working, really selling, and what was probably less of a future technology, or had not so much future. But you know, market is tricky because it will evolve, and it's not necessarily only the technologies that win, it's also the teams behind. And if you're interested into entrepreneurship, I think it's a very good topic for people who are interested into supporting entrepreneurs, bringing to market new services and new products. This is also something that is part of cybersecurity. If you if you have a knack for business. Now let's see how you can position yourself, given your personality and your skills, into this environment, because there are so many different jobs. Personally, I am not technical. I understand technicality because I was in charge of a big SME, which was international as well. So I had to make sure the data center, all the services were safe for my colleagues. And so I had to understand the technology. But myself, I have not studied the IT. So I had only to motivate the companies that were working for my company. So my role was more like a project management. I've always kept this in my way of working. It's always like, of course, relying, motivating people. And of course, for example, I learn all the time. And the last mission, I had to learn how to do visio architectures. And I was happy because I found out that, you know, I could manage to do some visio drawings to explain the architecture. And I mean, if you give yourself the right to go into fields that you thought were not for you, actually it's really enjoyable. So Panorama des métiers, they have done a great job with this. You can download it here. Of course, it's in French, but you have Google Translate, I think. So I give you this link. It would be great that you contact me later on LinkedIn, because actually this is the way they see that the job market is evolving here. Perhaps in your countries, it's a bit different. Perhaps you described the job descriptions are perhaps different. The responsibilities over somebody's shoulder are probably different. So it would be fun to see the differences. So they shape it into like 4 to 5 categories. They say, first of all, there is what, before I dig into the different job categories, I want to share my vision of the market, the offer categories. According to me, in cybersecurity, there are 3 types of offers. There are the services, which can be split into governance, cyber governance, and operational cybersecurity. To me, the difference between the two is that governance, you will write PDFs, you will say, this has to be done this way, all the documentation. But, you know, if it's not implemented, then actually the system remains unsafe. So you need these second types of services, which is operational cybersecurity. So it's people who will actually be able to dig into the system to check the configuration, for example, and to remediate. So they will deploy the right configuration, secured one. And they do also so many different services, the operational security. For example, they can implement an EDR, endpoint detection and response, which is much better than an antivirus, and they will spread it, and the EDR will be on the terminals, and then it will react as soon as there are attacks. And, so these guys, they do a lot, so it's complementary. governance, and operational cybersecurity. And then, so these were the services. And then there are the tools, there are the software. So editors are another block of offerers. So it helps me when I go to a fair, cybersecurity fair. Okay, these are service providers. Are they in governance or in operational cybersecurity? They do both. Okay, let's check. Because sometimes, you know, if they say they do everything, perhaps they do everything bad. Okay, so I don't. For example, where would I put services for pen testing? I think to me, it's operational cybersecurity. What else? And then you go to another stand and you bump into a software, an editor. So that's the way I see things. Perhaps it will evolve. Perhaps I'm already outdated in my vision, but it's for sure it will evolve anyway, because it goes very fast. So now we come back to the job market. So they say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 5, but this is additional. And they say basically there is how we manage security and we monitor projects, cybersecurity projects. So you can be a director in cybersecurity, you can be a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. You can be a Chief Information Security Officer, but for an SME, which is very important. We really need many people taking care of SMEs. You can be a security coordinator, which is already contributing to security. This is actually my official title when I was in the SME, because they didn't want to actually say I was director, blah, blah. I was supervised by a director whom was in Cairo. So I already started to work with Africa this time, you know. And then there is also the role of program director. So this is even on top when you have a program, like it's huge. I mean, when you are program manager for cybersecurity, it means that basically you have different regions. The company is so big, you have different regions, and you must apply a very strict protocol for one region, then the central region, then all regions, and it's big. So you need to supervise many project managers. This is the last job. Then conception and maintaining a secure information system. Oh, so in this case, the nuance is, in this case, you are responsible of the security project. And this one is within a project, for example, a migration to the cloud. You name someone who will be responsible for the process to be secure from A to Z, which is very important. Imagine you go to the cloud and at some point you will change the rights on the HR folder. If you do this improperly, you can let some people access, for example, the pay slips of people, the wages of all the company. So I give this example. It could be another example of data leak, but actually you need to maintain that across the migration project, you have made sure that there will be data security all along. And this job I like very much. I try to be friends a lot with the security architects. They are very knowledgeable, and actually it's a cornerstone job. If only we had more cybersecurity architects. Basically, how to become a cybersecurity architect, the people whom I talked to and who actually are cybersecurity architects told me that they have had many architectures to study. They didn't learn at school. Perhaps nowadays they teach that. But actually, I mean, in my generation, in their 40s, basically, it was not taught at in engineering school per se. Anyway, they didn't learn it at school. They had to learn it through their job life and finding many opportunities to have an opinion and secure some architecture. And then it became a skill. So, so basically, perhaps the best would be to be in a consulting company, because it will give you the occasion to study many architectures supervised by a senior, and then you make your you stabilize this capability. So this is being a specialist, a security specialist in a very precise domain. Could be, for example, quantum computing. How will we encrypt when there will be the quantum computer? Some people are already in this. Specializing in how to develop, to code securely. So I think this has a lot of perspective, because today developing security is really at stake, and they have more and more tools to do so. But you know, we need to develop this market and this offer. Crypto specialist, administrator of security solutions. So I think they are thinking of, for example, if you become administrator for an editor, then there is organizational security auditor and technical security auditor. It's quite different. Of course, I think you already understand what the difference is. Difference is when you are checking the technical security, you are really in the systems. You are doing operational security. Is this secure? Are the configurations okay? And then you launch a script to check this. But if you are checking on organizational security, you are checking actually on people. Do they know how to work safely? Do they have the documentation? Do they implement what they are told to implement? So this is really at the level of the human organization. And more often than not, the companies have done technically quite well, but they have not trained people enough. They have not nominated, for example, a local CISO. They have the big boss, okay, but then in the regions, people are not trained. And the global organization cannot consider they will have success in their security if at local level, they didn't empower people. So it's often where the audits fail on the organizational security. Gestion des incidents et des crises. Of course, this is a big one. It's how to deal with the incidents and security crises. So all those who work on Security Operations Center, which is a detection cockpit, like in a plane, but it's not about how to direct the plane, it's how the attacks are coming to my system and how I can counter them, react very fast. So they need analysts. It's more of a coordination. So as soon as you know more than me, because I think I'm describing certs rather than CSIRT, but actually it's like putting in common, checking the vulnerabilities. The CERT will detect and will compile all the vulnerabilities, and they will also talk to other certs and CSIRT. So they put the threat intelligence together, because together we're stronger. So you can be responsible for this type of entity. You can be an analyst on how to respond to incidents. And of course, you can be the one in charge with the cybersecurity crisis, because when a crisis occurs, we need a boss. We need someone who dispatches the responsibilities, what to do and how to go through it, and also how to communicate all along. And analyst of the cyber threat. Then we reach the last types of jobs: consulting services and research. Of course, there is cybersecurity consultant, trainer. If you like communication, that's good for you. Evaluating, oh yes, that's a job you can be interested in. It's actually because the editors, they produce software, they produce solutions, but we need to check that what they say, they promote some advantages, but is it true? For example, we have here an agency that checks on this, so you can be evaluator for them. But also, it's a bit different, but Gartner, for example, they will also try to assess the different technologies. So we can say that if you work at Gartner, you are an evaluator of these security solution. You can also develop security software, security solution. So it's not developing normal solutions and doing it safely with a safe code. It's being developer in this market. And then that's a job which I also really like, just like the architects, it's integrator of cybersecurity solutions. Because the integrator is the one who makes the glue between the solution, the new solution that you will implement into the system, and the system. So it's unavoidable. If you don't have an integrator, the project is bound to fail. So it's really key. And integrators know a lot and in depth about the systems. And I think we learn a lot from integrators as well as architects.
Hi, Murielle.
Yes.
Someone has a question for you in the chat box.
Really?
Yeah, they're asking about prerequisites. Diana, can you specify for which role? Hello, Diana. Hello, Diana.
Hello, sorry for the delay. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So I wanted to ask for the prerequisite skills for a cyber analyst. What skill do you need to venture into that field?
I'm not sure I can really answer you because I'm not so technical, but basically, I think you need to be able to understand. I give you a vision of what it is. Basically, you need to be able to interpret, to understand the events that happen to a cybersecurity system. An event is described by different fields. So an event is happening at this IP address at this time. And there are different fields that give information about what is happening. So you need, actually, I think you can learn from your colleagues, but basically you need to be literate with the machine's language. Like, for example, events from a firewall, how do they look like? But you can learn, actually, I know many people who learned online for free about all this, you know. Events come from all the boxes, you know. An architecture, it's basically links, the network, and the boxes, the systems. So if you learn to interpret what is going on, then the alerts will make sense to you. What is an alert? It's actually the correlation of different events. So on the system, this event happened at the firewall level, this other event at a terminal level. So actually you make the correlation. Actually, it's a system that raises an alert, and then you need to be able to say if it's a positive alert, it's a real one, or if it's not a true alert. And what happens? So I think the analyst just has to analyze that, because then the reaction, if it's the true alert, there are some levels. Of course, yeah, there are some levels for analysts. So if it's easy to understand, it's level 1. If it's more tricky, level 2 analyst will analyze. And if it's really tricky, so it's level 3. And then how to counter the attack, it's another type of respondent. So I hope I explain. Basically, I'm not sure you need a diploma. If you find the trainings online and you get certifications, but you know, like if you view all the LinkedIn trainings, things like that, to already get running, I think you can try if you really like this job.
Thank you very much. I think I'm fine now.
So I think you have lots of resources, and I wanted to share my blog because it's in English and in French, but you have some resource in English because I put on this blog the podcast and other sources of information that I thought could be useful about cybersecurity. And so I think we have to wrap up pretty soon. Alfonso, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
Lecture, and I really enjoyed it, even though I joined quite late. I don't know whether the question I want to ask has been addressed. Please, can you make the slide available in English for those of us who don't understand French? Thank you.
The slides are in English.
Oh,
do you mean
the one I'm seeing is not in English? I don't know.
It's
Hi, I think that was a website she had opened, but the slides are in English.
Okay.
Actually, Alfonso or anybody, if you have a website in French you want me to explain, you call me and we have a video and I translate it for you. It's okay to do that. The slides I presented at the beginning are in English and you will get it. Otherwise, if you want to connect on internet, on LinkedIn, you can get my name and I will connect to you. And as soon as you have, bye Doreen, thank you. So I would be very happy to respond, to connect and to talk to you in private message in LinkedIn. So if you find that some French resources are interesting to you, we can make a working session. That is to say, I will go through the documents. Of course, Google can help you, but it's always easier when someone takes you by the hand and tells you, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, and goes faster. I think I need to learn a lot from you. And the visions from your ecosystem can be really interesting for me. So I'm really open to share longer with you.
Okay, thank you so much, Murielle. I think we're also looking forward to collaborating with you some more. We definitely have a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank you for your presentation. You've shared some insights with us on some tips that we can take into consideration, or some habits that we can practice that can help us ensure that our work online is more secure, more safe. And then you also took the time to explain some of the cybersecurity rules in your ecosystem. And I think that that is really awesome. Most of the roles are quite similar to what we also have here. So, you know, they're not so far apart, but we thank you so much for doing that, and also for sharing the resources in the chat. So ladies, she shared some links in the chat. You can visit those websites for information on policy developments, pen testing, on articles, anything at all. You can just visit those websites and then you can gain some insights as to these things. So I think at this moment, we can spare some time for questions or suggestions from our participants. So, I mean, if you have anything to say or a question to ask, you can just unmute and then you can speak.
Especially on the, you know, all the market thing that what are the offers? What are the who are the entrepreneurs? You know,
yeah.
I set up a small business club here. We have people with different concepts. We meet physically, so we had this meeting, but also virtually. This is the description of the cybersecurity club. So it's in the mindset of sharing and helping entrepreneurs. And it's encouraging, because if, you know, we as an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur on my own, it's a kind of social connectedness that we need for our business to make sense. I think different businesses complement each other, and we are stronger when we share the vision. So and if you have entrepreneurs from you know, Ghana and all countries, we can also talk.
Yes, definitely. Would love to do that. Yes.
So thank you for your participation. And I'm always available on LinkedIn.